Hey, welcome everybody to the Backyard Professor Sunday Live Show. I have a spectacular guest sitting in the wings, chomping at the bit to get on here and straighten me out and share her story. I have the world renowned and award winning fantasy author Katie J. Cross with me tonight. And this is the gal I keep telling you guys about. And yes, you've looked up her books, and I have many of her books down there. But she is going to be with us here in just a moment. I have just a couple of house cleaning items I would like to do real quick. First off, just thank you to all you new subscribers and welcome all of you new people here to my show. I know I have been getting a whole tidal wave of new subscribers because of my shorts that I've been making on YouTube. And so welcome to the show if you're new, and we're going to have a good time tonight. If you're not new, if you're returning subscribers, welcome you guys also. I see Mark Crispin in the audience. Yeah, baby. I'm still going to do a t-shirt for you guys, I swear. So anyway, without further ado, I just wanted to say thanks for all your love and support, and let's get this show on the road. Let's find out how to do our own fantasy novel. Katie is going to give away all of her secrets tonight. So yeah, I am twisting her arm like crazy. I have told her I'm going to keep her on until she gives the secrets. So here we are. Welcome, Katie. How are you tonight?
I'm great. I'm so excited to be here. Hello, everyone. My dad talks about all of you all the time, so it's really fun to be here.
Yeah, this is my lovely daughter. And I told you, now see, when I showed these guys all of my cartoons, and the fantasy art stuff. Remember the cartoon I did of you fighting all those dragons on your wall?
I don't think anyone
grabbing dragons, and then you and I were fighting together, and they all said, there is no way your daughter is that beautiful. Not from you. And I said, well, she didn't get her beauty from me. She got her brains from me. She got her beauty from the mother. So here she is. I told you, this is Katie. You recognize her from the cartoon. So
yeah.
Oh, look like everybody. Oh, hey, here we go. Steve Acosta, you're the one that I'm going to put this up. Katie, you freaking rock.
I'll take that all day.
Yeah, I have talked a lot about you. So this is so exciting. This is a lot of fun because
yeah, it's really fun.
You are prolific, sincerely.
Yes.
And, when I was in Colorado visiting you a few years back, we went to a little bit of not a little bit. We went to one of your big conferences, and I honestly don't think he even had 30 books written, but even that was enormous. And now you've got, okay, now I've heard 61. You're still right. Have you published a new one since?
Oh yeah. So we're publishing a book a month right now, a novel a month.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
The first Friday of every month, I launch a new novel, anywhere from 70 to the last one was 110,000 words. Last month, I don't know. No, it's this month. This month it was 110,000 words, but they're generally between 80 and 90,000 words on the first Friday. So I honestly lost track of where we're at in terms of like final count. My team would have to help me out here, but I think if you take all of my titles into account, which is novellas, full novels, some published short stories too, we're looking at close to 80, I think, at this point.
Yeah. So at that, now I've got several of your books, and some of them are not very thin. I mean, you do 300 and 400 page novels rather readily, and I know some of them some of them can be real thin, and some of them are real thick. And you do a lot of backstory writing, etc. But one of the hey, Dan Vogel, welcome. Dan Vogel is a world-renowned Mormon historian that keeps visiting my site. I've had him on the show, and he wanted to say hi and meet you. So here she is. Yeah, he says, I can't even get a video a month out. Neither can I hardly. So, yeah, you only type 4,373 words a minute. You've come down.
It feels like it sometimes. My keyboard's actually, the letters wear off. So my old keyboard, there was only like 10 letters that still you could actually see on the keyboard. Right now, my E is totally gone. It's the only one that's worn out. And my space bar has a big hole in it because I type so much. Yeah. It's pretty wild. I was at the Mac store and I showed them the keyboard and they're like, "We've never seen that before." I'm like, "I'm a writer. I like write a lot." They're like, "Yeah,
That
dude."
is a holy keyboard. I'm just saying, hang on to that thing.
Worn down. It had a lot of love. Had a lot of love for sure.
Wow. Wow. If you only had $1 for every time you've pushed a key, right? Would that,
A lot of money.
awesome. Well, yeah, you showed me that one keyboard, and I was shocked. Of course, the E is going to be the first one to wear out, being the most popular letter in the alphabet. So,
Yeah, it made sense to me. Yep.
so and then the S, because you've done the Sister Witches series, and there's 2 S's in Sister, and so I know you're typing the S a lot.
Actually, yeah. I mean, I'm looking at them now. The A is starting to go, and then the S. So the A, the E, and the S. Which that's
The A, the E, and the S, yeah.
that tracks. That tracks for sure.
And SEA is C, so you are out to sea learning to type.
Your
I
jokes
think-
have never gotten any better.
I can't.
You have always been the definition of dad jokes.
I know, right? I'm doing bad dad jokes on the YouTube now on my show.
No.
Yes, I really am. It's
Really?
I feel terrible. I'll get over it, but I feel terrible. The audience enjoys them. Oh, anyway, yeah. So and of course the right question, and a lot of people have asked, and there's a few asking right now. How do you do it? I mean, seriously, 61 books. How long have you been doing it, Kate?
I've been professionally published for it'll be 10 years in March. So
61 books divided by 10. That's 6 books a year. That is
well, 6
awesome.
titles, right? Because like I said, some of those are short stories. And because what I do is I have a system where my readers can actually request a story. And so I have a form they can fill out and say, I want this story. And I write what's called the Reader's Request series, which is a series of short stories that readers have requested I write. And they're all about 10,000 words, right? So that is a title. And then I have some novellas that are like 30,000 words or 50,000 words. So they're like a third to a half of a novel. And that's a title too. So if you kind of average that out, most of my books are novels, but there are some smaller like segments of it that does kind of skew that data a little bit. So but on average, that's a lot, right? Like that's a high number. And the question of how do I do it is always an interesting one to ask. And I know your audience is like so smart and they love the facts and the data and the how. And, you know, I know how deep you dive in your studies and yourself. And so here's the truth of it. Like I can give you a lot of like, well, I'm really focused and I'm really efficient, blah, 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 and I plot, and we can talk about those. But here's the truth. If you want to go really deep into this, it's all about mindset, right? So we get in our way.
It's all about what?
Mindset, like the mindset around this. So all of us tend to get in our own way, particularly with our own success. Like we're either afraid of success, we're afraid of failure, we're afraid of judgment. We have all these fears. And so we slow ourselves down with ideas of like, I could never do that, right? Or I could never even write a book. Like we self-predict, we tell ourselves these things like, I could never do that. And then you don't do it because you don't even believe you can. So I've learned over many years basically how to get out of my own way by tackling that mindset. And sometimes it comes down to the nitty-gritty. So I decided to start writing a novel a month as a business model. So I'm an entrepreneur first and a creative second. So I said, I didn't love my current business model. It was advertising driven and I wanted a reader driven business model. So I said, I would need to launch a lot of books really fast. Could I do this? And I decided, well, I'm going to try. So I decided to try it out. And I found out that I was telling myself these stories like, well, I could never write 10,000 words a day, day after day, because that's crazy. Who does that? And then I was like, well, why not? Like what, like, right. Like if I write 2,000 words an hour, that's 5 hours of writing a day. And I was a pediatric registered nurse before I became an entrepreneur. So I told myself, I used to work 18-hour shifts being a nurse. And I never once went into my pediatric, like at Primary Children's and Salt Lake. I never went into Primary Children's thinking, I think I got 5 hours in me and then I'm out. Like, I don't think I can do it for 12 hours. I knew I had to, right? So I rose to the occasion. So I started asking myself, well, why couldn't I write as a professional for 5 to 6 hours a day? And I realized I just thought I couldn't do it. And so I eased into it. And so I started doing it, and I just stopped listening to the mindset issues, and I just started like writing a new story in my head. And now I write about 10,000 words a day when I'm first drafting, and I edit 15 to 20,000 words a day when I'm second drafting. And when I third draft, I can edit 25,000 words a day. So, I mean, that's the long and short of it, right? That's like the dirty secret, is I just get out of my own way with my false belief systems.
I love that. I get out of my own way. You want to hear a secret? You really must be my daughter, because I did the same thing with a video camera.
Oh, really?
Yeah, people have asked me, they go, how can you just turn on a camera and talk like you're talking to your best friend? You have no fear. You don't. And I just told myself, well, I've got a lot to say. I'm full of it. So why not throw it out there and see if anybody wants to listen? And I'll be darned, people do want to listen. And so I enjoy it. But I love this idea too. I want to toot your horn a little more too, for my audience sake. You guys, you need to understand, you can buy her books in print on Amazon.com, but she also reads her own books in Audible. You can get them in Audible as well. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
For Audible. Yeah. So, I mean, she is a mass producer in every branch to get you to enjoy her incredible creativity all across the board. So, and you do have Kindle books also.
Yeah, so they're available on all ebook platforms, paperback, online, and then all audiobook platforms. All the novels are available like on Audible and Apple, and there's like 55 retailers that my novels are on. But I have a bunch of short stories and other titles that my readers have requested that are only available on my website as paperback, ebook, or audio. So you can get all the big books on the retailers, but if you want all of the story, it's katiecrossbooks.com is where I keep everything.
katiecross.com.
Katie Cross Books. katiecrossbooks.com.
Create a banner. I should have done this earlier. Katie Cross, oh my heavens. Books. All one word, no caps.
You're right, exactly. Just a website.
Backyard professor at work here, folks. I already Books.com. Here we go. Yes, add the banner. Of course. Come on, add the banner. Yeah. Okay, there you go. Katie Cross.
Not bad.
See, I type
you do great.
2 words an hour. So
you did 4 basically.
I actually at one time was typing 100 words a minute. I'm not even approaching that now, but I've been a fast typer most of my life, off and on as well. So not nearly what you're doing, and I also want to emphasize to my audience also, you guys, lucky you, she does take requests for ideas. So if you have any ideas on what you want to see this incredible author put into print, to put into work and all, request it of her. And I will have links in the description to this video where you can, you do have a YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, actually, let me do this real quick if I can for just a quick sec. I'm going to share the screen, and Katie Cross YouTube, share. Can you guys see that?
Oh, perfect.
Let me know. This is Katie's YouTube site. She has 332 subscribers and 93 videos. Let's see if we can get that up to 3,332 in the next 2 weeks. She obviously puts a lot of work to and Katie is always so fun. We look at her Facebook page and she is so funny and so fun, and She talks about her books here, the different names, Miss Mabel's School for Girls stuff, the Demigods Book Club discussion, the rise of the, so you can get involved with this book club replays. She has a book club that she videos, which is really awesome. Are you seeing me scroll through this, Katie?
Yeah.
You can see this. Okay, yeah. And then live writing with Katie. She even shows you live writing here. That's really fun. And then Coffee with Katie calls. This must be a call-in, huh?
Oh, every Friday and some Monday nights I do a coffee with Katie where my readers just come and we just hang out for like an hour and chat about stuff. It's
how cool.
Yeah, it's fun. It's the first and third Friday and the second and fourth Mondays because we do it in the evening on Monday and at noon on Fridays, noon Mountain Time on Fridays, so that lots of people can come. I'm pretty I have a lot of global audience, and so we have to do different times to hit a different time zone.
I do too, and I hear you. Yeah, there's some who can't quite make my live sessions all the time, and they want to. And I've been thinking of doing 2 different live sessions at different times. So,
yeah.
But here's some live audio book recordings that she's talked about, and so she's got a wonderful website, YouTube channel where you can interact with her, kind of get the feel for how she writes and thinks. You can read her books. And I'm going to make a bad confession here as your miserable father. I have to confess, I am not a fiction reader. I don't know what's wrong with my brain. I'm screwed up, Kate, I'm telling you. But I've never really read a lot of fiction. So I'm trying hard not to present this as a fatherly bias. Oh, you're just biased because it's your daughter. Her series on the Miss Mabel School for Girls, I could not put down. It was so fun. It was so, remember me emailing you? No, I can't believe that character did that. And I was blown away at how good it was. And this is her very first series. I am into part of her other series. I haven't had time to read them all. I'm going to be 163 before I get them all read. That's a lot of reading, which is wonderful. But you can get it Audible too. So I'm just saying, Katie has that. She's got a Facebook. Go join her on Facebook if you're interested in the fantasy novel genre. And in fact, my own wonderful daughter here has influenced me to where I am trying my hand at it. I am writing a fantasy novel and I'm going to illustrate it. I've made videos about that on my channel, on my YouTube channel too. So
are you still writing it?
I am, yeah.
I haven't heard about it in a while. You were emailing about it a lot, and then I stopped hearing.
I know. I got involved in building up the website here, and I haven't written for 2 weeks. I'm not nearly as good as you are. I can't write every day, but I need to. But once I get retired, oh, heaven help the world.
Yes,
I'm going to come
for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, we'll keep that in the family, okay? Let's keep it going. Right. They already know I'm a nut job. Let's not prove it here.
I will say, I think your audience can appreciate this more than most, but I definitely get my energy from you.
Oh, right? Well, you honor me. Thank you. That makes me feel good all over. Yeah, and you do too. And I, Charlotte has been telling me since noon today. She said, you need a nap before the show. You need a nap. No. Let me go get a Coke. I've got stuff I got to get done. I got to get ready for the show and all. Finally, 5:30, I went and took a nap. I admit it, half an hour nap, but yeah, the energy level just never stops. So yeah, well, mostly he says BYP Unleashed will break the internet. Well, I don't know about break it.
He knows what he's talking about. Yep.
We have a lot of fun, don't we? You with your group, me with my group, and now we're all kind of starting to interact a little bit. And so your first book you finished, do you remember how you felt when you finished that first book and held it in your hands when it was published?
I think when I finished it, there was sort of like what I remember, a little bit of an overwhelm, like it's done. Like there's still so much more to say, right? Like what? I didn't know there was this much more to say, but I knew that, whoa, this is not done in my head. But I do remember the first time I held it in my hands, that was like a cool moment, right? Where it's like, oh, it's like a real thing. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I did it. Because there's so much behind the scenes that went into that first book, just so much learning. Like, how do I do this? Because I run my own company and I publish my own books, right? So I had to figure out the typesetting and the formatting and all that stuff. But I have to say, after publishing however many titles I have and so many books and formatting, and frankly, I launched so many books now, I forget that I have a launch. And I'm like, oh, like Friday, I launched a book and I was like, I'm launching a book tomorrow. I have to set stuff up. Like, I just forget. But I still get this physical thrill when I hold one of my books. It's like I see it in the world because it's in my head, right? And I have people email me every day about my books, and it's going into the world, and there's all these amazing things happening. But then when I have it in my hand, it's like, oh, it's so cool to like hold it in my hand and then give it to someone and like see the book go into the world. I think that's just the coolest feeling ever. Like, it would not have existed without me, and it's just cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and this demonstrates something else, that it's hard to get into the minds of people, but once you begin, I've had and the reason I asked, it kind of selfish, because I've written a lot of articles, published a few on more scholarly, religious, intellectual crap, right? And to have those articles being published in print and then seeing it, I'm going, oh wow, this just got real. But
Mhm.
isn't it fascinating how real and powerful the imagination affects the world?
Mhm.
You've
It
had
is.
people
It's
you've
amazing.
had people actually thank you for saving their lives? Have I heard that right?
Yeah. So, and it actually happens more than you might think. I have, like, I go to Dragon Con every August. It's this big science fiction fantasy convention. It's mostly fantasy, but sci-fi is there too. It's called Dragon Con, so it's a lot of fantasy. It's in Atlanta, Georgia, and I I love going there. And we sold out, and then we took orders, and there's tons of people. And I got this email, and I was doing panels and all this stuff, and my assistant had come, and I had this big table and all this stuff. So I had this lady email me, and she said, I was too afraid to come up to your panels at Dragon Con this year, but I've seen you there. And she goes, I just wanted to tell you my story. So she emails me a story how she was diagnosed with this disorder that put her in a hospital. She almost died. She was recovering. And then it was during COVID. And so she had to isolate a lot. And I had given her a signed copy of my book for free at a Dragon Con before that, and hadn't thought much of it. And then she was in her house by herself, and she just was looking at her bookshelf, organizing the titles, and she saw Miss Mabel School for Girls, and she pulled it off and she started reading. And then she said, I didn't stop because she couldn't physically hold the book after a while because she was just so weak. It's from what I remember, or she wasn't able to focus or something. So she went and bought all the audiobooks, and she said, I needed Alcara. These two sentences have struck me to the heart, and I was like a little emotional when I read them. She said, I needed Alcara, which is my fantasy world, and I needed Bianca at that time. And Bianca is the main character in Miss Mabel School for Girls. And I hear that kind of thing. She goes, I needed somewhere to go to just get away from what was going on in my life. And I hear that all the time, right? From my readers. Like, my husband was just diagnosed with cancer. I'm in the hospital with my child. I just lost my wife. My daughter just died. I hear all these traumatic stories, and these people are escaping to fiction. So I have a team of 10 to 15 on any given day that help me run the company and publish the books. And our whole mantra, our whole mission, vision, values as a company is to bring Alcara into the world so that people have somewhere to go to find their courage, to escape and find their courage again, right? Because that's what we do in fiction. We go to these fantasy worlds and we find our courage and who we want to be, and we're flying with dragons, and we have magical carpets like Bianca, and there's all this really cool fun stuff. And then it's we can step out of our life for a little bit and get into this magical place, recharge, come back, take a breath, go back into our lives, And I think, like you were just saying, the power of the imagination to change the world is stunning. And what we need right now more than anything is courage, right? We need courage, just to get through our everyday lives these days. And that's our whole mission of the company, is to provide a place for people to go to find their courage again.
Oh, that's awesome. That's wonderful.
So cool, right?
That
Very
is
humbling. It's very
really
humbling when I get
Oh
those.
man, I'm telling you, I have actually had people tell me the same thing, more or less. They say what you do is it's either brave or ridiculous or stupid or wow. But
Mhm.
most of all, they say thank you for being a voice because we can't and you are, things like that. And the other reason why, I mean, you, Katie, give me the strength to keep going too, because you dedicated one of those books to your old man and you called me a dragon in my own right. I've been wanting to thank you personally for that in public for well over 3 years.
I
That
know, I
just
wondered
made
if you
my
ever
whole
saw that.
but
Yeah,
that
it
was
was
so
Flame.
cool. My daughter called me a dragon.
Yeah, so for your audience to know, it was my book Flame. It's the first book in the Dragon Master trilogy. You can actually get it for free on my website if you want to try out my writing. But the dedication says to Dad, a dragon in his own right. Which is the highest compliment, by the way.
I'm going to take it as a compliment.
Yes, you should.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, they're powerful animals and all that, but I don't want to be the dragon sitting on my dead lazy butt just hoarding the wealth. I'm going to be the different kind of dragon where I go and share it and bring in people. After my chess videos, I always end up closing. I say, be good to well, have fun, sleep long, work hard, and make friends, because the world's a better place with friends than with enemies, stuff like that. And
Yeah.
you can't believe the response I get back. There's people who are having entire classrooms of kids saying, we let them see your videos for that because you're influencing the kids, and your books are doing that. Now, your genre, your materials, what's the age group that you target?
So I'm young
I
adult
mean,
fantasy.
you have to have a target. Everybody needs to read
Yes.
your books, of course. But
My target is young adult fantasy, in that, like, the themes that you would find and the genre conventions in a young adult fantasy novel is a lot of what I explore. But my audience is actually usually women and men. I have a pretty like even bag of men, like male and female, who are typically like 40 or older, up into 80s, 90s, right? I have people of all ages, but mostly like middle age and higher who buy my books. Part of that has an advertising slant, where I've put my money for advertising, but also there's time and money freedom there that like some teenagers don't have. Most of my outreach, like when I go to events or I do things, is like for teenagers, because the characters are
sure.
16 to 24 when they
Yeah.
start usually. But in the Sister Witches series, which I'm the final book, the 10th book comes out in January. I've been publishing it all year. I mean, Isadora and Sana are in their 60s, so the main character ages vary. But I tend to see middle-aged people purchasing the books, even though they're written really with teenagers in mind, or like young adults, not teenagers, young adults.
Yeah. Even some of us old duffers read that stuff. I'm just saying.
Mostly you do, yeah. Like most people that are buying it, or
No,
they're like for their grandkids,
the thing I've really enjoyed, now I'm because I'm trying to write a book on it, and I don't want to lose my momentum. I've got a great story. I'm going to send you some chapters here in a little while to get at least your feedback somewhat. But the way you developed your characters, that was the one thing that intrigued me, because and this is such a bad confession, my audience is going to boo and hiss, but the Robert Jordan series, The Wheel of Time, is simply one of the most magnificent series I have never finished.
I was like, wow, you read that and you don't like fiction? That's crazy.
No, unfortunately, it sucks to be me, but I did get through 8 of them.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
And it's amazing and yet stupid, because there's only 4 left, Carrie. Come on. Actually,
Oh, wait, I think I just lost you, Dad. I can't hear you.
okay.
There we go. So, now I can.
I accidentally unplugged my mic. That might be a good thing. Glad you're watching after all of you. So anyway, I love your the thing that Robert Jordan did, and Charlotte read the entire series, and I got
That's
through
right.
8 of them, but she said what is depressing is I'll never find another series this good. We've tried, and she's right so far. But
Mhm,
she said the character development. Now,
mhm,
one of the things I've loved about yours is you feel the pain as
mhm,
well as the giddy, the tension when
mhm.
someone's betrayed, the pain, you know. What how do you how did it just come through trial and error? How did you get so fabulous at character development so
Mm.
quick? Because it's all throughout your books. It's one of the most wonderful parts of your whole book is you know these people when you're done. They're
Yeah.
fickle and they're prissy and they're competitive and they're
Mhm.
dangerous and they're idiotic in some reason. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah, yeah, you would.
I get it. I'm yelling at them all the time. So I think it's twofold, right? I think I've been through like, I'm just like you, I'm a lover of people, right? Like, I think I got that from you too. Like, I genuinely just love people, and like you, I could talk all day. Like give me a microphone, I'm sure we could talk all day.
Let's
So I
do it.
think that's the study of people, right? Like, I've always been interested in people and that kind of thing. And then I've done a lot of therapy, like, so like the feelings aspects, the like growth aspects, that kind of stuff, like is very helpful as an author. But also the fallacy that I think a lot of people the best DNA, LDS history. Oh yeah, I've got some interesting LDS DNA for sure.
The
Um,
BYB stock.
there's some very infamous characters in our family line.
I love
Um,
that. Honey, is there a hoot? So
the
anyways, right
fallacy, I think that there's this idea there that writing is easy, right, or whatever, or that characters just come out. But all of my stories and all my characters just I Shrek it is what I say. It's like when Shrek is talking to Donkey and he's like, ogres are like onions. Onions have layers, like that whole thing. I always say that my stories have layers, and so I just layer those traits and those frustrations in terms of like in the first draft, my characters are probably super boring and very inconsistent. But in the second draft, they're much more consistent and I actually know what they're struggling with. And in the third draft, we're pulling out not only like keeping that level ground so that the consistency is there and then we see the growth, but also there's like beauty in the imagery and I'm foreshadowing, there's stuff like that. So I think letting the characters come out in layers allows it, but also um, they're imperfect. Like these characters are making mistakes, they're failing. And that's why we like them, because they're not perfect. They're not destined. Bianca wasn't like the one that you see a lot in fantasy. She's just a girl that had to fight for her life. So I think a
Literally.
lot of that comes just through they're really relatable. They're just people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's now see, this is where you being a fiction writer has helped me expand my mind a little bit more to quit being so judgmental against fiction as being, well, that's not real. I want to read the facts. I majored in history for Pete's sake. Give me the facts, stuff like crap like that. And I write the most boring stuff because of that. But what happens is when we read your books, we go through that not in real life, but
Mhm.
through the characters in your book. And so amazingly, it becomes real in our lives. And
Mhm.
so it develops, it expands us. You laugh because some of the stuff you put in here is hilarious. You cry because once there's some terrifying moments. I mean, terrifying. And then there's some just sad moments.
Yeah.
And you wonder, and I want to, what does Bianca really look like? I want to try to draw her for you, things like that. And then as you go through the experiences, we get to surrogately have those experiences that we probably never would have had anyway. And so fiction becomes a beautiful addition to our life, even though it's just a story. That's
Mhm.
the point. It is a story because life is story. That
Right.
seems to be your philosophy, your
Oh,
thing. Yeah.
absolutely. Well, really, so I really feel like part of the reason I'm here on Earth is to bring Alcara, right? So because that sense of like escapism, that sense of I don't have to be present in my life because I can just like go into the story for a little bit. And where you're talking about we're experiencing it as if for them, we're flying a carpet, we're flying a dragon, whatever we're doing, it feels real to us for a lot of us book lovers, right? Like us fiction lovers like myself, where it's like, go away, I'm reading. It feels real to us. And that's where we kind of build that courage and that ability to go out in the world and like be Bianca in our own life or whatever else. And it's just I just think we need more of it, right? Like in this world that gets frustrating and scary and it feels so out of our control because it is, right? But we can always escape into a book and for a moment have that. The other thing that is really interesting about fiction that someone pointed out to me years ago and I've never stopped thinking about it is in fiction there's an end to the problems. Right? So at the end of a story I like kind of wrap it up and there's a sense of happily ever after even continues in the next book and you know there's going to be new problems. There's like a sense of finality like oh, okay, this is over. We can move on. Right. But like in real life, we don't get that. Like we have
Ooh.
cancer and I'm dealing with this 3 years later and there's no like end or, you know, like I have addiction and I'm always going to have this addiction. You know, you don't always necessarily get that like closure that you get out of
Oh,
fiction. And
yeah.
that is addicting.
Happily
Like,
ever after until the next pea picking event that's gonna bother me. Hey,
exactly. Yes.
I think one of your loving fans is here.
Who is it? Oh, hi, Lila. Oh, so good to
And
see you. She's
Bianca,
one of
what
my
a
rock
thank
stars.
thank you, Lila, for being here. Appreciate that.
She's over in Australia. She just illustrated the children's book that we launched. It's called Beyond
Oh,
the Grave. She's the
wonderful.
illustrator. So I don't know if you've seen it yet, Dad, but
I haven't. I'd love to. Lila, you and I need to get together. I need to take lessons. I'm also trying to be an illustrator somewhat, and it's a lot of fun.
I want to show
So,
you guys Lila's work because I can't overstate her. The other thing about Lila that's really cool is she sees Alcara even better than me. So the other day I was stuck on a scene and I just said to Lila, I just messaged her because she's part of my team. I messaged her and I was like, I'm stuck. What do you see happening for Isadora? And she told me and she helped me get unstuck. So this is what Lila made.
oh, thank you for showing that, Katie. Oh, look at that.
So
Fantastic,
that
Lila.
is Lila. These are Lila's illustrations.
Oh, my goodness sake.
Let me
Look
find
at
you one more. There's one where
See,
Bianca's flying.
that's what makes children books so cool, isn't it? I mean, look at that. Look at that.
Pretty
Fantastic.
amazing, right?
Oh,
Well,
fabulous.
we're actually officially launching this on Friday. So we kickstarted it and we got $20,000 with a goal of 10. And Lila did the illustrations. So it's going to be officially available this Black Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Lila, I'm so glad you're in the chat and we can show off some of your artwork with that is so cool. Appreciate. And you know what, Lila? I have 3 or 4 really spectacular fans from the land down under too. And bless their hearts, they show up sometimes on my live and it's like 6 and 5 in the morning for them. So, I mean, it's
Lila
quite
does the same. Yeah,
yeah,
she'll show up at 3 in the
you
morning.
Aussies rock, don't you?
Agreed. Agreed. They are so loyal. So
The
loyal.
shirtses and the crosses love you Aussies. Well, that's
I don't think my followers know that my maiden name was Shirts. Yeah. Now that I
oh
think of
yeah.
yeah,
This is what I
I'm just
love
Katie
about
Ross, right?
definitely. How
Mm.
cool is that? Well, thank you for sharing her artwork. I love it, man. And see, this is the other thing that makes writing so cool is you're not, you know, that who was it? Thomas Merton, who wrote that No Man is an Island. I'm giving off my ignorance now. I can't remember if it was Thomas Merton or whoever it was. Anyway, no man is an island, no woman is an island either. You don't do this by yourself. You have a spectacular support team in
Yes.
all phases now, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. So,
Because
like
that's
I
the way
said,
it should be.
anywhere from 10 to 15 people, right? So they are the magic behind Alcara, like my support team. Really, like it happens because of them. So Lila, not only is she like our resident Alcarian illustrator practically, which I give her that title. I don't know if she claims that title. But she also is part of, I have a proofing team and an editing team, and I have a title manager, so I have an editing team that after I've worked on the books for like 3 weeks, I send it to them and I just go, I hate it, make it pretty. And I have a copy editor, a line editor, and then I have beta readers and sensitivity readers. I have all those kinds of people that will come in, and it's just a Google Doc, and then they actually talk to each other. And like one reader will say, I don't like what you did here because, and then other people like, I disagree because, or I agree because. And so I can actually get a bunch of different viewpoints about the narrative and think, and then I just make the decision. Or they will give me their reactions. Like, I hated this. I loved this. Do more of this. What? Like they'll tell me so I understand, oh, this is what the readers are thinking.
Oh, that's
I
awesome.
don't want them thinking that. I want them over here so I can kind of change the way it goes. And then once I record my audiobooks, because we've talked a little bit about it, but I narrate my own audiobooks. I send it to my proofreading team, of which Lila's a part. And so I have proofers that listen to and read the audiobooks and the ebooks at the same time. So two of them do ebook and audiobook, and Lila does the audiobook while she paints and illustrates and stuff. So they then check it to make sure all the passages are there, that it agrees in the way it's supposed to, that I didn't mispronounce things wrong, that kind of stuff. And then I have title manager that when I need help, they kind of help me manage on the titles. I have a business consultant that helps me kind of drive the company, because I'm the CEO, but I also do the work of the company, which is really tricky. You have to like drive the company and do the work of the company. I can't separate it.
Right.
So my business consultant helps me with that. I have a bookkeeper, I have a tax accountant, so I have all of these like different things. I have translators, this kind of stuff. So without them, why who would I
Quite
be?
a team effort to make. Now, see, this is quite a team effort to make this incredible, beautiful Alcara world exist. Even if it's in the imagination, that doesn't mean it's not real, because the
Right.
imagination is very real. And every one of us know that, because every one of us right here, right now, whether you like it or not, whether you accept its reality or not, when I say we can imagine a real cute little pink unicorn, there it is. And yet we
Mhm,
know it's not real. And yet every one of us just saw that.
mhm.
That is one of the most fascinating things. Every human invention began in someone's imagination first, and then it became in the physical. Isn't that fascinating? And I want to do a quick shout out to Newton Lemos, my other real super duper fan from Brazil. He says it's 20 to midnight here.
Way to
And look,
go, Newton.
he's up here watching. So thank you, Newton Lemos. He's one of my diehard goodies. All of them here are. So anyway,
That's
um, yeah, and okay, here we go, you guys. This is direct. This, if eyewitness testimony is important, then ear witness testimony has to be just as important. Lila says, "Love Katie's audio, so much passion." So if you can't get her print books, or if you commute back and forth to work or whatever, get some of her audio books and listen to her read the books. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and Lila says, "Yes, the pink unicorn has been here all morning." There you have it.
that's fun.
That's impossible, because the pink unicorn was just right over here with me.
Lila calls the creatures to her. It's amazing.
Lila, you're seeing things. Oh, okay. Thank you, Steve Acosta. He has to run. Oh, thank you. We love you and appreciate you. All right. Very good. Very good. I'll see you next week, Steve. So anyway, this has been fun. We've been 45 minutes. Why don't you? I don't know if this is possible, and if it's not, it's all good. It's kind of fun to ask authors this. I've asked other authors that I've had on my show before, but it's almost impossible. I get it, but which is your favorite book or series of books, and why?
I actually have an answer for this.
Or can you think that way? I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like I have rotating favorites, but there is one that stands above all as probably what I normally tell readers when I go to conventions is my favorite of all the books I've written, and it's called The High Priestess. And it's a standalone. I actually have a copy of it here. I was getting ready for Black Friday earlier today.
We're both going to pull a BYP here. She's
No, you guys, I am my dad. I'm like leaving to go look for books. Right? He always says it. Yes, that's the one.
Yes. The High Priestess right there.
Yeah, so awesome. Yes. So this one, it's a standalone. So this book actually launched the historical collection series, which is part of my reader's request. So this character, Vittoria, I mentioned like twice in the book Freedom, like Flight and Freedom. Flight, I think. Flight or Freedom. And readers.
And Lila screamed freedom. She apparently really likes that one too.
Yes, yeah. Lila's got it. Well, it's in Flight too. Dora's at Corsair. But yeah, so I mentioned Vittoria very briefly, and readers wanted more information about her, so I gave her a novel. Yes, she's in that one too. Yeah,
I think one of the bigger ones, man. That's like this is a big one. This is awesome. 470 pages.
Yeah, it's a big one for sure. That's one of, I think that's my biggest or second biggest. But anyway, readers loved her, and so I gave her a novel, and then I just love it. There's a really strong romantic subplot. It's a lot of action, adventure, and big magic. It's two brothers fighting for a kingdom set against the rags to riches Cinderella story and a marriage of convenience, like romance, if you like that stuff. It's just fun. It's different. I love the La Salvatore line. It kind of has like a Spanish setting. Yes. La Salvatore. And I love Mateo. I think of Clark Gable. So yeah, it's a really fun book. I think that's probably my favorite.
Okay, so that's the first one to read, folks. The High Priestess. Fantastic. It sounds like you're
I'm not sure what's going on over there. Sorry, my 8-year-old is crashing stuff around.
Your 8-year-old is crashing stuff around, and so is your dad. I keep unplugging this stupid mic. I am known for throwing books,
Yes.
The old ridiculous LDS apologetics crap and throw it around a little bit. So I don't mean to make enemies, but they've got to learn how to write better. That's all. They need to take writing lessons from you. So.
Oh gosh, no. I would say sit down, shut up, and write.
Sit down, shut up, and write. Now that is a really important lesson, because what they tell us YouTubers is they say, shut up and talk. Point the camera and produce content. Mm-hmm. Now, and I'm not technically, I'm not a content producer, but yeah, I point the camera, and I want to give people something that's worth hearing, that's worth studying, that's worth listening to. And you give folks stuff that's worth reading, that's worth listening to, that enriches our lives. And so you are deeply and wonderfully worldwide loved by so many people for just that gift you give. And so I wanted to honor you tonight. I wanted to say, when I called you, I said, gosh, I can't think of anybody I'd rather have on than Katie. Because I've talked to my audience about you a little bit, and they have basically, they thought I was exaggerating when I said you'd written 61 books, and they looked you up while I was live. And then they came back on chat and said, hey, he's not buffaloing us, folks. She really has written. Check this out. Yeah. Oh.
I love that they checked you. Well, I appreciate it too. It's fun to be on the call, like together, right? Because there's so many similarities in what we do, and honestly, in like the purpose that we want to serve. Both of us love people. We're both high energy, and we both really just want to bring goodness into the world. I think we have always shared that in common. Like we love people, right? And so it is fun to be on the call together and to kind of bring that full circle, and like dad and daughter doing it in their own different respective audiences and ways, but really we want the same thing, which is really cool.
Bring good into the world. Man, if everybody for one day could do that for one day, wonder what would happen. Wonder what the change would be like. Wouldn't that be kind of cool? I wonder if there's any way we could start a campaign and make that happen. That might be awesome. That might be a pretty big chunk to chew, huh?
Mhm.
Well, we'll do it in our own way anyway, in a smaller way, and we'll
Yeah.
let others help us. So that's what's so fun. So anyway, we're gonna do any of you have any questions that you'd like to ask Katie? Let me ask that real quick.
I
I
say I
know.
have 10 more minutes before bedtime for my kids. So if there are any questions anyone wants to ask, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, go ahead and ask the questions, you guys. Put them in caps if you would, so that I can see it. But I'm trying to scroll back through. I know there was a couple of people who asked. Uh,
He likes to be yelled at, so put it in caps.
Isn't that fascinating how that became a thing? I had always used caps as sort of an emphasis because it won't let you do italics. So
You would always say grin in caps. Do you still do grin?
grin, yes, I do. Well, I have the emojis too,
Yeah.
but yeah, I do the grin. Okay, here. Oh, and this is Steve. He's one of my wonderful fans. Katie, for someone wanting to start reading your books, which book would you recommend for a middle-aged man who is still in good physical shape and has most of his hair?
Those qualifiers are amazing, Steve.
She said that one, High Priestess. I think she had to.
That's a favorite, and it's a good starting point. But I think the best starting point is actually Flame. And that's the first book that you can get on my website for free. So if you go to katiecrossbooks.com, at the very top, it shows a place you can just put your email in, and I send you a link to download the ebook or the audiobook for Flame free. I think my dad also has that one. He bought
That
it.
is so cool. Yeah, this
that's
is
the one I donated. I dedicated to Dad. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you guys have to read this now. That is your BYP assignment. By next Sunday, you will have this book read, and I expect book reports. So anyway, yeah. So let's see. Hold on. Let me get right back here. Oh, here we go. What's your biggest influence?
Sorry, what was that one more time?
What's your biggest influence?
Ooh.
Oh, see. And he is one of my very intelligent ones. He likes to crack crazy jokes, but underneath,
so you probably
genius.
Then I honestly think, one of my biggest influences is just real life. If we're talking about the things that influence my writing the most, it is the people that I meet, the situations that I am in, the real life that happens, that kind of stuff. That probably influences my stories more than anything, because I don't really get stuck. I mean, I do get stuck sometimes. Like I said, I messaged Lila and I was like, what do you see? Like, give me some ideas, because I'm sort of in a rut. But a lot of the time, if I feel like I'm getting that way, or like the creativity's slower, I just need to go into life. Like I just stop writing and I just go into life with my kids or my family. And that tends to inspire quite a bit.
How cool. Here's one from my very dear friend, Trevor Luke, who is also a college professor of Roman history. Do you sketch out characters before you plot the book?
I do. Yeah. So, but I don't do a lot. So there's some phrases that writers use called the pantsers and the plotters that you may or may not have heard of. So there are plotters where everyone like plots the book out and you know everything. And then there are pantsers where you fly by the seat of your pants and you just sit down and you just write. By nature, this might surprise none of you, I think my dad and I are both probably pantsers. Like we're just going to fly by the seat of our pants and see what happens, right? We show up in the world that way. But actually, I can't write books very efficiently that way. So I plot out like a 3-act structure and my basic storyline and scenes and scene ideas. And I'll have like a 3-sentence like scene idea and I'll have that. And then I pants the scene itself. So I'll have an idea for a character in my head that's like, I need them to do this. I probably want them to foil this person. So they're going to be like really bright and happy and kind of ditzy, because this other person's sort of dark and gloomy and really like logical. And I'll kind of have that idea, but then I let the characters sort of come into my brain as I'm writing it, and I just let them arrive however they arrive in the moment, which is really fun, because then I get to discovery, right, and pants the individual scenes and the characters arrive as they arrive.
I can testify to that. That's what's happening with me in my book, man. It's the craziest thing, except I'm getting my ideas from the illustrations I'm drawing. I produce the art, and then I ask, what's the story? What's the story with this picture now? And that's kind of helping me. But yes, I get in that mode and I go like crazy. Let's do one more question real quick, Katie, if we could. Newton Lemos, my man, are your childhood impressions an inspiration for your books?
I think so, like in some regard. I did not intentionally draw super heavily from like childhood impressions when I wrote starting out, but I think as I've learned more about myself and the world, and I have 2 kids myself, and that sort of thing kind of rolled out. I do think there's some of that. There are, especially in the Dragon Master trilogy, there are big themes there that I was very intentional to explore that your audience would probably be really interested in, like Talus and Sana and just the, you know what I mean, like those kinds of like subvert, like quiet religious themes that I was exploring in my own head at the time that I was intentional about and putting in my books that sort of originated in childhood, that kind of stuff. So I think there is seasoning there, but I don't think it was like the meat of my goal.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, Trevor, thank you. He says this has been very fascinating.
Oh, cool. I'm so glad. Thanks for asking the question.
I love hearing about the Mosi. I love hearing about this creative process. So very good. Very good. Okay. Well, it looks like I know they've got other questions. I'll tell you what, I'll read their questions in the chat and then I'll phone you. And then I'll tell them next week or something.
I know when you told me that you sometimes do 3-hour calls, I was like, that would be fun, but that's not going to work. I just have my 5-year-old and 8-year-old have to go to bed, but I was excited to even come for an hour.
No, I like to accommodate my guests as well as my audience. My audience has never, ever complained about me going too long. There was one night when I couldn't get on for a technical reason for 2.5 hours, and every one of these wonderful people were still here.
It's amazing.
It just blew my mind.
So amazing. That kind of audience loyalty.
My audience is the best.
Yeah, it means you're doing it right. You're like reaching the people you need to reach with the message you're supposed to have.
Well, they are so above the normal in wit and intelligence and insight and all that. They help me learn just as much as I help them. And like you, I take requests. Sometimes I'll say, hey, what subject do you want to do? And I'll say one, and I try to do it. So, okay. Thank you so much, you all, for coming to the show tonight. And thank you, Katie, for being here. I know the kids are rambunctious and it's time to we are gonna hey, thank you, Lila. It's been wonderful to meet you. Thank you for being such a true friend and the sweetheart with my daughter. You're awesome. I'm not even kidding. Someday I'll come to Australia and I'll bring Katie with me and we'll come and meet you.
Yes, the world's not ready. Well, thanks, Dad, for having me. It's so cool to meet your people and be here with you. And I appreciate you honoring that.
Absolutely. Okay. Oh, thank you, Radio Free Mormon and Garrett Zion. We're just signing off, Garrett, but you can watch the video. I promise it'll be up just shortly. So we're going to head out. Thank you. Remember, be good, do well, have fun, work hard, make friends, and don't sleep in. But if you do, enjoy it. You know, if it's your day off, you know, I do it all the time. I sleep until 5:36 in the morning. It's spectacular. So, all right, we got to go. We love y'all, but we're leaving now. We will be back. We'll do a part 2 eventually.
Yes, get all the questions and we'll do Q&A.
Oh, yes, yeah. We'll do one with the Q&A. And after she gets her next 61 books written by the end of next year, we'll come and review those too.
2026.
So. Oh.